All right, hello and welcome to another episode of Block Talk. As always, we're your hosts, Crypto Nikolai and Crypto Foxtrot. But we invite you today in a wonderful celebration, of the birth of a crypto dream, and that's what is happening right now.
This guy right here. It is his birthday today, so send the hype, send the moon rockets to the market, do whatever you got to do so this guy can retire by the time he's 35.
Yeah, hype train and hodl train is how we're gonna get there. As you can see, because that's how it worked out, right? I mean, it was an unsinkable ship.
Yeah, until they found it at the bottom of the ocean in two separate pieces.
And what about the board? The piece of wood there, though. Doesn't it seem strange to you that both Leo
there was
and
plenty
Kate
of room on that door
So much
for
room.
both of them, but no, Rose had to be selfish and let poor Jack freeze to death in the middle of the North Atlantic somewhere.
Yeah.
And then she had the nerve to take his name after he was dead.
Yeah. Pretty insane. But at the end of the day, what can you do? It wasn't meant to be. Yeah, you just freeze in cold North Atlantic water.
He should have hodled on a little longer.
He should have. He should have hodled. For those who are looking for coins to hodl, we're just going to dive right in, and I just want to show you a little chart here.
Oh
yeah. And here's my boy XRP.
Coming in strong.
My boy XRP was flatlining.
Yeah, just back from the dead.
I mean, this line, it doesn't matter what time frame you look at. That line just goes back and it's not moving. Yeah, there's some fluctuation in the price value, but that's
not enough.
That's
not enough at all.
Really minor, between 26 28 cents.
Not enough to make me interested.
But then look at that jump.
But I mean, who could have picked that one out? That's a literal needle in a haystack, right there. I mean, there's no way you could have seen that coming. I mean, look at that, for God's sakes. It's just nothing. Boom, something. Correct a little bit. Boom, here's some more.
Yeah. And that's why when you look at exchanges, you see whale activity. That's what it looks like. This is a whale splash.
Yeah, because I mean, if we take a look at those first three green candles, I mean,
these are 15 minutes, so
yeah, I mean,
we can even dial in.
I mean, regardless of which candle setting you put it on, you can see here that the volume right around that time just went a little crazy.
Some people sold off right here.
Yeah.
There was some sell off. And
probably just people trying to lock in those panic profits.
Yeah, a solid 2.2 million sell off here.
Okay, but contrast that against how much was bought.
This is 3.2 million. No,
3.4, 3.3.
I'm sorry, that's 328K. And then this was.
No, you had it right. That's 2.2 million.
Yeah. So why? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong thing.
Yeah, that's where it's currently at.
Yeah. No, it's currently much lower volume. I was like, what? Yeah. So, So then it another 3.4 million buy, 2.7, 3.9, almost 4 million Ripple purchased.
Bought in that little 5-minute window.
So, and if you think about these orders of like 10K, that's 100 orders, just getting blown through.
Yeah. So much activity there.
Yeah, and when we think about what could be driving this, I think honestly this is overdue. I think that Ripple has been making huge strides in terms of the relationships they're building and the success. We previously mentioned how they moved 4 billion Ripple.
Over $1 billion.
In a matter of seconds with basically not feeless, but you pay 33 cents.
So, I mean, at that point, if you're moving, millions of dollars, let alone billions of dollars. 33 cents
is insane.
Yeah.
And if you think about the money transfer speed using the Ripple network, I mean, they are making the relationships because they know that bankers will trust other bankers. And,
Very true.
So by building a consortium and that, then they're able to possibly sway opinion and push adoption in that way. Props to them. I'm happy for all the Ripple holders out there.
Yeah, so when are we going to get back to $3 Ripple?
I don't know if those days are coming back. I really don't. I mean, for those of us who are unfortunate enough to buy Ripple at the peak, that hurt quite a bit. So, anyway, Bitcoin's had kind of an interesting day.
Yeah.
A little $150 run up.
Not bad.
It's kind of trending back down a little bit, looking a little bearish.
Yeah.
And Ether, nice morning.
Finding some support there.
And coming back down. So a lot of buys early this morning, right around the same time, 7, 8 a.m. People waking up, feeling good, wanting to buy some crypto.
Got some Folgers in their cup.
Get some Folgers in their cup. Actually, I think there's better coffee out there than Folgers.
Yeah, I would definitely have to agree.
But do they have as catchy a ad campaign? Maybe not.
Not that I know of.
So one of the things that we
I'm sorry, I just saw that note there. XRP wrecked you for not believing.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, I mean, if I had just believed. So just to share a brief story, I was looking at alts to put my Bitcoin into. And I was looking at this little puppy.
Tragedy of the century.
And I said, I could have got in sometime back, look at that lack of movement. So sometime around here, the 4300 era. Made a nice 700 sats. Anyway, so we have been following the development of Ether, and this week is no exception. I think that it's a big topic for a lot of people, not just because it makes up a big part of mining portfolios. It has a huge number of dApps and dApp developers that are kind of behind it. There's a lot of people looking at it as a platform, for doing other things like building other altcoins. So Ether is important, whether or not its leader should sometimes not talk about the days, the heady days. The thing is maybe philosophically you can get away with saying that because he was right. I mean, the days of 1,000 times explosions in Ether are gone.
Yeah, I think.
Now, Binance CEO disagrees and says we are still in the days of 1,000 times. Just another currency.
Yeah, I mean, CZ, for those of you who aren't familiar, his name is Chinzo something.
Yeah. CZ is how he's affectionately known.
Yeah. He's very much a market optimist.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, in such a, tumultuous market, sometimes you have to, be the shining beacon of light of hope amongst, an otherwise shitty shitstorm. So he is the optimist, whereas, Vitalik Buterin, the God King, he could be seen as more of the realist of the crypto community. And I'm going to have to side with the God King on this one. I just don't think that we're going to see those kind of explosive gains that we saw, last year, leading up to the end of 2017.
Here's some explosive gains for you.
Some explosive diarrhea. Like, that's what that is.
Jesus.
I mean, that's getting bogged. Like, someone got the Bogdanov twins on the line right there. Dump it. Kill him. Transfer everything.
Oh, it's so brutal. I mean, this is like, you're riding high.
And it's still going.
Yeah. Yeah. That's XLM ETH.
Oh, my God.
So, not to make light of getting bogged because it sucks when that happens to you.
I've been on the receiving end of quite the hefty bog.
Now this is why this right here, what we're seeing on the chart on these 5-minute candles, if we even zoom in a little bit, see there's too much gaps there. The volume's a little bit low, but okay, here we go. I think the 5s are the way to go, to be honest. So the way that we should look at something like this is when you go to invest in something and it's pumping, okay, you can get bogged. In this case, we mean liquidated. We mean wrecked. We mean your investment loses lots of its
significant value.
A significant loss of value. If you don't cover your ass. So how do you do that? Right here. So as this is going up, you set what is the minimum you'd be willing to accept.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so as it's pumping here, this is just me. I'm thinking, okay, it's going to pump. We get some sell-off, but not much sell-off.
Right.
So comparatively speaking, it's going sideways, so we're just going to ride it out, wait for another pump.
Next candle turns out good.
Yeah, huge spike in volume over this 5-minute period. So, it's moving. It's riding that Bollinger Band. Now, at this point, this is when you set your stop loss. You say, okay, if it goes under, let's say, 103,000 Gwei.
Mm-hmm.
So 103,000. Let's say you bought in down here at 100,000 Gwei. Right? So 100,000 Gwei here to 103. So you gain 3,000 Gwei per at a minimum, or you can you can set your stop loss wherever. Or now what that does, if the price does plummet as it did right here,
quite violently,
and right here,
and then again a few minutes
and
later,
then it just continued down. It fell 6,000 Gwei.
That's worrisome.
So those gains of 3,000 were hit by a -6. Massive sell-off. Now.
Oh yeah, that's tough.
How can you avoid that? Cedric, go over here. We're gonna have to move us around a little bit.
Get motion sickness.
So we look at our stop limits here on the right hand side, and then so what we'd want to do is set it up so where it's basically the price 0.00, and then it was, we said 103.
Yep.
103,000 Gwei. So what we'll do, let me just type it in here, to ensure that this goes.
Set it a few Gwei higher. That way the trigger doesn't get lost somewhere.
Yeah. And then, however many we had, say we had 10,000. So, if we had 10,000 versus the 100,000, so that would be, so it would have been a gain of 0.3. Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. The limit's going to change it. I was like, why isn't it going? Yeah, just 0.3 ETH. But
a third of an ether.
Yeah, it's better than nothing.
Better than no ether. That's for sure.
Yeah. So anyway, you set it in here, and what that does is it triggers. So you want to set your stop like one higher than your limit, and then your amount, however much of your stack, and then you don't have to stop loss all of it, but generally speaking, you're probably going to, because otherwise you're going to get bogged. If you're worried about getting bogged, you want to get 100% of your stack out rather than 25, 50, or 75.
Yeah. whenever the Bogdanovs come out to play, it tends to get pretty ugly. So, this is perfect example of why you should trade smart. Why you should put those stop losses, stop limits to good use, protect your profits. Because if you'd have bought in at this sideways movement here at the beginning of the chart, caught that ride up and sold out at the top, even if you set your stop loss or stop limit, just below the peak there, you still would have walked away with some profit.
Yeah.
But if you wouldn't have set that, then you would have essentially wound up back at square one.
Yeah.
Now on the longer timeline, you didn't really lose anything if you didn't sell. That is.
Yeah. And then.
But you lost all those profits that was chewed up by that catastrophic dip.
Yeah, and you can also do the same process in reverse on the way down.
Yeah,
so it's getting bogged. It's just getting bogged. You say, all right, I want to buy in on this dip, but I don't know where it's going to be. It keeps going down. You're losing thousands of Gwei. Just down. You say, all right, I'm going to set my stop loss for... You look at it and you're just going to say, all right, so 97,600. You set your stop loss. So you go over here to the buy section. Now, we actually should have been typing it in on the sell section, so on that way up, it actually is on the right-hand side. Here, I'm going to move us.
Yeah, we're just doing some comparative math here.
Yeah, so on the right-hand side, this is where you would input it on the way up. On the buy side, this is on the way down. Okay. And we're just going to stay over here for now. So, again, typing in the buys on the way down, same thing, just in reverse. Your stop is going to be the price it's going to trigger, and your limit is going to be slightly above your stop rather than your stop being slightly above your limit on the way down.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, if you can time that, what ends up happening is you have, let's say you have X amount. So let's use an example. What do you think is a reasonable amount for someone to be trading with in terms of Ether right now?
So your average trader, maybe half an Ether, just to see what happens.
So half an Ether. You start with half an Ether. You buy up here and you gain 3 million Gwei off of it. You sell down here, or you don't sell, you wait and you buy back in on this dip, ride that back up. So that's 5. Well, not cost averaging per se because you sold off up here.
True.
And you're buying in lower, which increases the amount you have because now you can trade into more of the coins because they're cheaper, and you have more of your original buying power.
Yep.
So you gain in both. Then at the bottom you buy here, and then it pumps back up 5 million Gwei. What a wild ride! And then at that point, then or not 5 million Gwei. Excuse me. It only went up. That's 5,000 Gwei. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Big difference. And so then it goes up 5,000, and then suddenly you sell. Then you set your stop loss. You lock in these profits from the previous candle. You say, okay, anything above this line, I don't mind if I lose, but I want to lock it in. Let's say it's right here at 101.8 or something, maybe 102.
Yeah, nice even number.
Yeah, 102. Even though it's unlikely you'll catch that close to the peak. Anyway, just for illustrative purposes only. Then you sell there. And now that you've sold more quantity of the coin for a higher price than you bought in twice, now you've made basically 3 successful trades in the buy and then sell here, and then from the sell to the buy here, and then again the third sell.
Oh yeah.
So
that's a hell of a profit scrape right there.
Yeah. So that's getting
all in the span of about a couple hours.
Yeah, these are 5 minuters, so starting at around 7:25 this morning, and then to this point is about 10:50. So about 3-4 hours of solid movement.
Ooh, that would make my brain hurt. That would make my anxiety hurt as well.
Yeah, I think more so on the anxiety part.
Oh, I mean, my goodness.
This is sorry about that.
Hold Tracy, man.
Yeah, it's
hijinks.
It's unstoppable.
And I'm curious to think, or I'm curious to hear, now that we see this, it's easy to say, what we would have done, what we could have done, should have done, so on and so forth. I'm curious to hear what how some of our viewers may have made that play. So if anybody was trading on XLM or cares to give us a hypothetical play-by-play of what they would have done, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, if you're viewing and you have some ideas on what you think, but also anything you're trading into, we'll be happy to look at. I know that a lot of people are into Doge.
Oh, the Doge.
So
the saga of the Doge continues.
So Doge actually dipped under 100 sats when I was looking at it.
Yeah.
940. No, it's 94 because they added extra. All right, so let's see.
It was hanging out at about 0.0062.
Oh, on the USDT.
Yeah. And then it kind of just tumbled on down.
It's at 59. Mm-hmm. Right under 6.
Yeah, and I know to new traders that that small insignificant change in number might not seem like a whole lot, but if you're holding thousands, even hundreds of thousands of Doge, that small change in price by what is that, 3/10,000ths of a dollar,
right,
that reflects very, very big, very largely on large holdings.
Yeah. That's a good point because it's such a small increment, but percentage wise it's a lot more impactful, right? So that's kind of been the appeal of penny stocks and those kind of investments for a long time.
The small insignificant, on the surface they seem insignificant, but really, if you're one of those people who have massive holdings in a penny stock or some of these low cap coins that have been floating around that I've been hearing about, the smallest change in price can be monumental in terms of profit or loss, depending on which way it goes. So that's it's definitely something to think about, when you're trading in some of these low sat coins that you have to buy up large amounts. At that point, it gets tricky to protect those profits because a small sat coin like this moves quite frequently. So, it's not uncommon to see, 3% up, 3% down, so on and so forth. So it takes some really smart trading or very strong hands to just weather it out, hold on to it, hodl it.
Hodl gang, dude. Pound hool.
Pound hool?
What is pound hool? No, hodl gang for life. You're right in that you can see these swings, but a lot of times what ends up happening, and it's harder to see on here, but Binance does a really good job. If we look at HOT.
Yeah. That's another good low sat, low gwei.
This is kind of like what ends up happening here. Yeah. And so you end up getting a situation where you just don't get that much movement. And there's a huge buy. Way huge buy right here. And all it did was just go up like one sat.
Yep.
So if we zoom out.
Even still.
You have to zoom out to like ridiculous levels,
Mm-hmm.
But if you bought in at the 10 sat, let's say you bought in at the 12 sat mark here. You bought in at 12, and then you sold off at, let's say you sold off mid-pump. So let's say you sold off right here at 16. So 12 to 16, 4 sat gain on that, bro?
Yeah.
Insane.
Especially if you're holding like 1 million of them.
Yeah.
That's, whew.
4 million sats.
Yeah, and that's what, 4% of a Bitcoin right there?
Yep, 4 million sats. Yep. Now these walls are really interesting.
Those are
1.2 billion worth of people want to buy 194 Bitcoin.
That's crazy. But there are some. Well, not really. I was going to say there are some decent orders being snapped up, but really you've got one that happened a few minutes ago for almost 5 million hot.
That's a significant amount of hot.
Yeah, significant, yes. Don't get me wrong, but
we only need 60 more orders like that to break through one more sat.
Yeah, you're going to need a lot more than that to break through 1.2 billion hot, though. But hey, that's one hell of a line of support, though.
Yeah, dude.
That's going to hold
that's
for
a great
quite
wall
a
of
while.
China. You can see that line of support from space.
Dude, yeah. You don't even need binoculars. Like, you've got a 1.2 million wall there, followed by another billion, followed up by over 500 million.
Yeah, but if these two fall, then the Earth is in trouble.
Yeah, we're making, like, Earth fall, meteor strike kind of impacts.
Exactly. So, one of the things we mentioned Ether is that one that we've been checking in terms of how it impacts the mining community.
Yes.
Because there are folks out there who do mine Ethereum.
Yeah. Not for much longer, though.
Yeah, so especially thinking about that, the Ethereum hash rate has gone down by about 20% over the past week.
Yeah.
So miners are increasingly worried about profitability. Some miners are actually starting to look at bankruptcy because they have so much invested in the hardware that, with the price of Ether dipping down, when it got down to the 160 something mark, that's where you're spending more than 160 worth of power to generate that.
Easily. Oh, yeah.
I would say maybe the break-even point is 200. I mean, we'd have to kind of get
with
our
crunch
experts,
the numbers, yeah,
and see. But I would say more than likely, the fact that this talk has surfaced means that there are people feeling the crunch.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt about that. The pressure is definitely on. The Ethereum miners are definitely feeling the heat because in the grand scheme of things, the hash rate declining by about 20%, that's significant. When you're measuring things in terms of petahash and gigahash,
yeah,
20% of that is just that is a lot. Like, that is just mind-boggling how much hash power that is.
It's a huge chunk, and we haven't seen a dip like that since I want to say. For the 2 months or something, maybe more, like 3 months. Like there was another time was a big dip.
Yeah.
But before that, the biggest dip was only like I think it was like 20 or 30 of the exahash, or that they have in terms of measurement.
Yeah.
And anyway, I mean, it was just crazy. But this is steep, and I think it also ties into the upcoming Constantinople changes.
Yeah. So it was announced on Friday by the developing team.
Yeah.
That Constantinople, the Ethereum hard fork, is going to be set to launch on the testnet. They're introducing new changes to the system, which would be a stark difference from where Ethereum is to where it will be after these changes are implemented. Some of these changes include platform efficiency, speeding everything up.
Yeah.
Changing the economic policy, and what I mean by that is the shift between the proof of work to proof of stake consensus, and then not only that, but they're going to be implementing the difficulty bomb, which is essentially designed to discourage people from further mining of Ethereum and switch over to a proof of stake network. Essentially, they're just disincentivizing or unincentivizing mining Ether at this point.
Yeah.
Just make the changes over to Casper, the proof of stake system. So yeah, that'll be a big thing coming up in a few weeks. But just keep in mind, it's only going on testnet, so it's not going to be live, on the Ethereum mainnet. until a little bit later. They haven't been able to pick a specific date that Constantinople will be launching, because the testnet environment, the Ropsten test network, which I know a lot of people don't know much about it, and really most people don't have a need to mess with it unless they're a developer. But because of the nature of the Ropsten test network, isolating a specific block in which the hard fork will occur is very, very difficult until it's much, much closer to mainnet or launch time. So I'm sure, as they continue making these, updates and changes to the Constantinople plans, we'll know more about, a closer, more specific date to keep an eye out for the test net as well as the main net as well. So
yeah,
that'll be coming in a couple weeks.
But the key takeaways there, they did announce that they're going forth with testnet, basically betaing of their hard fork. But the difficulty bomb was in a previous meeting set for 12 months from the date of the hard fork.
Right.
Did they move that up to the same time, or did they keep that 12-month delay in place along with the 8-month delay in the mining rewards?
See, I'm not 100% sure, but I think something I read by Vitalik Buterin may answer that question. He was saying, or he was sort of further explaining how the difficulty bomb is going to work. He said, once that line of code, aka the difficulty bomb, is implemented onto the system, people will not see any appreciable changes to the system for at least 3 months. So there is a bit of a safety net there for people who are still mining Ethereum. So once the difficulty bomb goes off, that's when you're going to start seeing a slow taper across several months of these proof of stake systems and protocols being set in place. So I'm not 100% sure when the difficulty bomb is going to be implemented, but I do know that the effects of it will not be felt in the system for at least 3 months. That is the projected sort of buffer zone that Vitalik Buterin has thrown out there. And he's even been so bold as to say for several months. So anywhere between 3-5 months, there will be a little bit of time left for people to mine and what have you, but eventually that time is going to run out, and all of those miners' equipment will be rendered useless and obsolete. Feels bad.
Yeah, and that kind of goes over to when you think about how you want to build your mining setups now.
Right.
If you prioritize cards that excel at Ether mining versus something like Zcash mining, which is what
right.
I would recommend kind of looking at. If you're looking at possible coins, what to mine right now, I was thinking about doing an FPGA array and then use possible, do some work mining on Zcash, but that would require getting all that set up.
Yeah. So for those who, I think we briefly mentioned it on a previous stream at one point, but there's been sort of this new concept of mining that's kind of sprouted. So up until, recently, most people have just, used their PCs to mine with CPUs or GPUs. Some people have taken it a step further and built GPU mining rigs. And then there are some people who have taken it even a step further past that and gone the ASIC route to mine. So up until recently, that's kind of all we've been limited to. But now it's been sort of postulated that FPGAs, or field programmable gateway arrays,
that's right,
are a much more energy efficient, high hash output form of mining that requires a fraction of the energy that ASICs require, and just, insanely much more hashing power than an ASIC. So a lot of people have been kind of experimenting with that, and as far as I can tell, people have been having some pretty solid results. The only barrier that I see, well, really there's a couple barriers that I see to FPGA mining is it requires a little bit more practical knowledge of coding, because with ASICs, typically, you just order, I want an Ethereum ASIC or I want a Bitcoin ASIC, and they just kind of pre-code it for you, plug and play, essentially. FPGAs, you can't do that. You kind of have to tell the hardware what to do, how to access these random bits of information on the blockchain, so on and so forth. So there's that. And B, it can be a little costly. FPGAs they do cost a little more than the GPUs that people use to mine, but if you break it down, to get the same amount of hashing power with a few GPUs, you can get out of one FPGA. So, the argument could be made that, one or two FPGAs has the same amount of hashing power as, 4 or 5 GPUs. So the cost savings are there.
Yeah, I mean, it's economy of scale and distributed processing together. Yeah. That's kind of how you get the lower power requirement. But ultimately, remains to be seen how effective it's going to be in our own foray into this. So stay tuned, and we'll let you know when we have a fully set up Zcash mining, array. But stay tuned for more on that.
Yep, we've got our awesome tech consultant working on that, doing some cost and spec analysis on it for us to sort of, give us some sort of indication of whether or not a pursuit like that would be fruitful. So as more on that develops, the more you'll know.
Yeah. Big shout out to him for stepping up, and all the sports staff who have been working with us. Big shout out to the Dogecoin Facebook group, as well.
Oh yeah. Blockchain Inc.'s Facebook, the Dogecoin group on Facebook. They've been huge supporters of us, and we wouldn't have made it this far without them.
Yeah, and really for all the new folks in Discord, big shout out to keeping the discussion around Dogecoin and some of the other forays, getting set up on EOS. I received a question this week about transitioning, basically old ERC20 EOS into the freestanding coins.
Oh, okay.
And so the person hadn't seen that they had actually migrated. He had just left them in his Exodus wallet for some time, and just wasn't there and paying attention.
Wasn't there for the token migration.
Exactly, to migrate them over. So
at that point, I mean, most token migrations are going to be handled by the exchanges nowadays. So if there's a token migration coming up, just move your coin or your tokens over to a Binance, or not an exchange that supports the swap and migration. Binance has been known to do that quite often. They support a lot of token migrations. They make the process very seamless and simple. So yeah, that's just for future reference for those who weren't aware that that's how those processes work.
Yeah, and speaking of sort of behind the scenes processes, we have newly announced a decentralized exchange of XIII, which is a spawn from Bitfinex and uses the same kind of API and stuff. It's really meant to be an extension of that for up and coming discussion of ERC projects that are coming soon, and so you can see token listings as well as listed tokens on the XIII discussion area, and so they kind of go through and they rate them. They show you how much they've raised, and so you can kind of see the ones that are raising a lot and not so much.
Yeah, definitely useful to see some of this stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of information about different tokens. So if you're interested in learning more, this can be a place to find out. There's a lot of overlap on a lot of these listed tokens. So if you're looking for like a privacy project or a platform project or, I don't know, distribution, decentralization, security, kind of whatever your thing is, there's kind of an area for that here.
Oh yeah.
Another way that ETH Finex is really interesting is they've already started to see some pretty significant volume. We compared the volume of ETH Finex Ether into USDT to Binance, which you'd think Binance is kind of way up there. ETH Finex just launching literally days ago, so. But if you look, the volume's actually higher, slightly higher on ETH Finex in terms of this trading pair.
Yeah, it came out to around I want to say like $10 million of difference.
Yeah.
Thereabouts.
Yeah.
So I mean that's actually pretty remarkable for a decentralized exchange that just launched a few days ago.
Yeah. And so there's no basically. What makes it special is that unlike Binance, where you create an account, you go through the know your customer
KYC process.
So you have to send information into a centralized, trusted place. So a decentralized exchange like this, there's no sign up, there's no know your customer, there's no registration. You just connect your wallet.
Yep, you lock in your coins and start trading.
Yep, exactly. And so that's something that I think a lot of crypto holders like, because they feel the pull towards centralization is natural, and then sometimes you need it. Like, I think in order to really, to get started, there had to be some exchanges for someone to initially get started and put the faith in the system, to get that ball rolling. But now that we see that there's plenty of volume outside of these centralized exchanges, I mean, we just saw that they rivaled the Ether USDT trading pair instantly. It just opened. Just announced it.
To go for a brand new launch of an exchange to surpass the volume of a Titan exchange like Binance is just insane. That just, to me, that speaks volumes, pun intended.
Hey.
Speaks volumes about how much people really care about decentralization and privacy of their data and their personal information.
Yeah. And data is not very secure.
No.
I mean, right now, if it wasn't for the GDPR kind of shift in focus in Europe, that kind of translated over into some online changes over here, and the kind of all the cookies, rebranding that you see on every website you go to, where every site is asking you about that, so that companies are definitely more cognizant about that. But I think privacy is just a beautiful thing. It should be enshrined. It should be protected. And so with like a decentralized exchange, basically you're not putting your own personal data at risk. You're just putting your wallet. Basically this is your wallet. This is not connected to your identity. It's kind of similar we were talking about EOS, how it's very there are a few trusted nodes, but it's because it's distributed.
It's all been voted on though.
Yeah, it's voted on, so it's decentralized, and since there's not one central decision-making authority, there's consensus among the block producers. But that's very decentralized in that you have your private key, and then you have what your public wallet has, and you use that to move your EOS around, and that's what we need. We need that in real life. We need that in in terms of where right now our data is, because I'm not trying to sound all tinfoily here, but I think I think our data is overshared, and
I mean, it's been proven that our data has been overshared. The Cambridge Analytica, great case.
Yeah.
I equate all of this to, here's an example I was just thinking of when we were talking about that. How would you feel if you walked into Burger King and you just wanted to buy a Whopper or some chicken fries or whatever.
Yeah, there you go.
And you're paying in cash, so no questions asked. Cash is king. Everywhere
Bitcoin
takes
cash is king.
Yeah, shitcoin is nothing. So everywhere accepts cash. I mean, that's just a fact.
That's because the government tells society that it has to accept cash.
Yes, correct. But now imagine if you walked in to a Burger King and you wanted to buy a Whopper, you have cash in your hand, but you have to show your ID to buy that Whopper with the cash. What's the point?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter where my money's coming from. What matters is I've got it, and I'm here to spend it on your fucking Whopper. So you don't need my ID. Just take the money.
Yeah.
Now, with credit cards and stuff like that, I can understand where that would be a concern. Credit card, information gets stolen all the time, so a lot of places do check the names on the card.
I mean, as a perfect example, we talked about information being out there and not private. If it's hacked and stolen,
yeah,
that shows a security weakness in the system.
Indeed. And with a decentralized system like this, it just alleviates all of that concern. These people on here, they don't care where or who they're buying Ethereum from. They just care that you've got it. You want money for it.
They might care and they might want to know, but
go to Binance.
Yeah, I mean, especially when looking at how these exchanges have really gotten going. I mean, I love them. I love the different options that you have in connecting your accounts. If you already have a Bitfinex, which is admittedly more popular in Europe than it is in the States due to kind of the account creation issue. But basically you just connect, you get an email, and you log in. Like, it's very, very easy. And their trustless exchange, which is kind of the name of it, is as we've shown, it's very interesting. But you can actually find FAQs, a lot of information about it. This is kind of their main page here on Finex. You can kind of see Go Trustless. Trustless is the name of their exchange. So there's trading, listings, but the community part is really what kind of intrigued me. And of course, you can always go to their main page to get their white paper. But at the end of it, this is just another resource. If you're looking to find new projects that you're interested in, this can be a good resource.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Bitcoin is. That's 4 hours though. That was back.
Oh, okay.
It was back a couple weeks ago. So this is a bad week for Bitcoin.
Oh God, yeah, so bad.
And we've started to come back a little bit from that point. There was a major seizure of assets of the late XIII. He was accused of running quite a drug outfit, I believe.
Yeah, so.
Or was it fraud and identity,
Yeah, it was fraud. It was some sort of identity theft sort of deal. Yeah. And then, what was it called? Facilitating criminal enterprise, something of that nature. Right. But ultimately, this individual was accused of operating a darknet marketplace called Alphabay, which is kind of like a rival to the Silk Road, drugs, guns, what have you. But Mr. Kaz, Canadian native, he was in Thailand when he was arrested on charges, this laundry list of charges, surrounding the case, and just a few days later he hung himself in a Thai prison.
Yeah.
So this whole asset forfeiture case has been going on and on and on, around 14 months now, but it recently concluded a few days ago, and it was they released the asset forfeiture list, of some of the stuff that they managed to get their hands on, and oh my God, did they get their hands on a lot of stuff. Just to name a few, a $900,000 Lamborghini.
That Lambo.
He had a $81,000 Mini Cooper. Um, he had a $260,000 Porsche, 6 beachfront properties, $770,000 in cash, and then they took it a step further and seized his crypto assets, and it's rather extensive what they seized. Specifically, these amounts: 1,605.05 Bitcoin, 8,309.27 Ether, 3,691.98 Zcash, and an unknown amount of XMR or Monero.
Yeah, quite a a find there.
Super substantial holdings there. But it's the whole thing. These seizures and arrests, are of dubious and moral gray areas here. There are some people who are libertarian enough to believe that markets like these are okay.
Well, dark web marketplace is one thing, but you know, um, gaining information to use in a trial, um, by illegally wiretapping or something like that.
Yeah, that's a big no-no.
To get the article goes on to say, in order to get the evidence and to get the information they needed before it could be encrypted or wiped, they had to literally crash a car through its front gate, to distract him and bring him out, and then to get in and get him before he could encrypt everything.
Yeah, but unfortunately, a few days after that, he committed suicide in prison. So that definitely, made things a lot trickier because now they're having to hold a trial where the defendant is in absentia, meaning he's not there anymore. He's not able to stand trial.
Right.
So that can definitely make things really, really tricky in terms of letting the criminal justice system play out. But a 14-month long case finally did wrapped up not too long ago, and feels bad that he was driven to commit suicide like that.
Yeah.
But the whole thing is kind of shady, especially with how the law enforcement handled things. But I think they also stripped assets from his parents and his wife because there was evidence that they received gifts that were used in or they received gifts that were paid for with earnings from Alphabet, making it not fraudulent, but a criminal.
Ill-gotten gains.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So, now his family and, his wife are, not doing so hot, and they're having stuff taken from them.
Yeah, I mean, it gets tricky to seize that because, maybe they didn't know that necessarily some of that or all that was, coming from that. And then also, you got to think, how many times do you have to spend the money before it's no longer associated with that thing, right? I mean, eventually the money transferring hands, buying other things is kind of washed of that.
Yeah, but, you're right. And, there's, the argument could be made that, he was living, some sort of double life. And,
I think it's quite possible, and I think that, you could easily just explain it away and just say, I was doing good on my investments, and keeping it. But we don't want to say that we're against, any kind of morality here, but as pretty big, focusers on liberty and freedoms, especially here in this country, we like to think of, some things as inalienable, right? So some things,
life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Yeah. So, did this guy, commit some crimes? They have a whole laundry list of crimes they say he committed, and ultimately, um, he didn't get a chance to go to trial because he might have known what was coming.
Yeah, I mean, same thing happened with Ross Ulbricht. The Silk Road guy, getting 2 life sentences for operating the Silk Road. Do I think that 2 years is, a punishment that fits the crime? Absolutely not. I think that sentencing was more or less the courts trying to make an example of Ulbricht.
Yeah.
And especially with the FBI, cybercrime, and you have all these, big watchdog groups, lobbying and what have you, and at that time, it was very easy to sway a jury into believing that cryptocurrency was nothing but a way of evading taxes and funding criminal enterprise. So there may have been some undue influence there on the jury.
And the problem is that the public's education level about crypto is low. So it's easy to say, well, you don't use it. A normal law-abiding person like you and me uses plain cash and credit cards that you can trace back to a company. We don't have anything to hide. Why are they using this technology to hide what they're doing? Do they have something to hide? And then that's association. And I mean, it's an interesting argument, but at the same time, it's fallacious because just because you want to use decentralized money doesn't mean that you're using it to evade the law. It just means that you're interested in taking control of your own financial independence. The government's issued fiat currency has limitations. It's within the system. It decays in value. In some respects because of inflation. There's also widespread inflation in the form of quantitative easing, and so when they just injected money into the economy to just keep it going, you got stimulus packages, you got banks that are too big to fail, and the banks are the ones screwing over people anyway. Congress will come up and make a regulation that affects the way that banks have to operate around certain lending procedures, and then suddenly,
bail them out.
yeah, and then they bail out the bank, and then suddenly all the people who have those outstanding loans, properties, investments, they're getting caught up in it and screwed over. So, there should be and needs to be an alternative to participating in that financial system, which I think, in the form of decentralized, digital currency, is a way to say that, if I want to transfer money, move money around the world, I can use this technology that's distributed and powerful and and secure.
And you mentioned earlier about. I have cash, I have nothing to hide, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
If you think about it, isn't crypto, aren't crypto transactions a little more transparent than actual cash transactions? Because
you can go on the blockchain explorer.
You can see everything.
And check it out. You can see the transactions from who to who.
You can track the movements.
You can see those are addresses, remember, right? So you don't necessarily know who that person is, but if if they have that information listed, like on EOS, for example, I can choose how much information I list on my public address information when I create that, or I can just use a randomly assigned identity, and it'll just randomly assign you one. It's like random raccoon, 11131.
Yeah, right.
And then so if you're a random raccoon, then you're just the system's anonymous face.
Yeah, exactly. But see, that's why I like, crypto more than, cash. Obviously there is convenience to cash and what have you, but you don't get that transparency. You can't follow the trail as easily as you can with crypto because, I was at the store, less than an hour, a little more than an hour ago, and this is $1 I got back in change. All I know about this dollar is that I got it from Mr. Samir at the Chevron.
Yeah.
Before Mr. Samir gave me this, I have no idea where this dollar has been.
Yeah.
For all I know, it could have been rolled up to, snort coke off of a hooker's stomach.
Yeah. Significant percentage of cash has trace amounts of cocaine.
Exactly. And I know that's an extreme comparison, but it's not. It's not an unfathomable. I can't talk.
It is not
unfathomable.
Right.
Thought.
Yeah.
And with crypto, if you want to see where your ether has been, just follow the trail.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Just follow the money, and follow the ledger, the transactions.
Yeah, it's all there.
It's all there. But
it's unfathomable.
Yeah, yes, indeed. Well, I think that at the end of it, we will see greater crypto adoption because the arguments that we've made here today stand and ring true. And people are thinking the same thing already. So it's just going to take a few businesses here and there to keep partnering up, to keep doing things like LG getting in the remittance scene now alongside XMR, not XMR, XLM and Ripple, Stellar and Ripple. So they're getting into the remittance game as well. So, it's going to take stuff like that. It's going to take private companies. We're not going to get any movement out of the SEC. The SEC is a slow-moving organization.
Yes.
And they're going to delay and delay and delay and, wait and wait and wait. Comparatively speaking, private companies are jumping on it. They're like, BitConnect. No, but seriously, they're like, we really want to make a real product here.
I mean, IBM was one of the first, tech titan companies to jump, into, blockchain and adopting blockchain technology because, it is possible to utilize blockchain tech without actually having to implement a cryptocurrency of some sort because at the end of the day, a blockchain is just a fancy database.
Yeah, that's right.
It just happens to be A, decentralized, and B, distributed.
Yeah.
So, it's only natural, and it makes more sense for these big companies to start, jumping on this train where, they can store their data, more efficiently. They can move the data around more efficiently. They can protect the integrity of that data. Even if part of the server, even if a significant part of the distributed database goes down, it still lives on another part of the server. So, you can still access that data at any time, anywhere in the world. So, why wouldn't, a company jump on board with that? I can understand, some of these big, Fortune 500 companies, as well as the SEC. They move in geologic time. These are very much, corporations that have been around for, years and years and years, and they're very set in their ways. Any governmental agency is going to move in geologic time. And, adoption in terms of, governmental use, it's going to be very slow.
Yeah.
But we are, we're not on the ground floor anymore. We're taking steps up, and we're getting there. And more and more companies are starting to utilize blockchain tech, and really, it's only a matter of time before we see the majority of all of our data being on the blockchain, and that is a day that I cannot wait for.
Well, we'll obviously document the many, many steps and phases to get to that level of adoption. But we'll be right there watching it and documenting it along the way.
Yeah, hopefully I won't be old and gray by then, but
I think we can expect a few gray hairs, but maybe not the entirety.
I mean, I'm already getting there. I keep finding them every day.
I know, dude. It's
and you with your birthday, man.
Yep,
man,
hype.
It's all downhill for you, man.
It really is, but at least I'm 1 year closer to the sweet embrace of death.
The sweet, sweet embrace.
Yep, and the end of existential dread. I mean, there's so many things to look forward to.
The great nap,
Exactly.
The big sleep.
The big napola. But we did want to thank everyone for tuning in and kind of giving us your attention, at least in some small part. We are going to dial it down for today, but you can catch us another exciting episode here later on this week, Thursday afternoon. And we'll be discussing more hacks that have come up if the XRP gains were sustainable. And, of course, we'll have a preview of some more blockchain gaming. We have I wanted to show off your blockchain card collection in Spells of Genesis.
Yes.
So you're already on the blockchain with that, and we'll be able to see what you can do with those options.
Absolutely. That game has been a lot of fun. We'll go into it more later. But in the meantime, thank you so much for watching.
Yeah.
We can't do it without you guys. If you haven't joined our Discord already, just drop a little comment in the stream chat there, and we'll hook you up with a link. We'd love to have you. We'd love to hear some of your ideas, your concerns, ideas, questions, you name it. That's what we're there for. That's what the Discord's for.
Yeah, interests primarily, just to see kind of where you are, what you're interested in crypto. We'll find a project you can get into, start learning about, and really dial it up to 11.
Absolutely.
And we did want to mention, I did mention this great shirt, and this shirt is available. From our friends at at Bad Gateway. Let's try this one again.
Oh, brave, trying to be brave.
Yeah, it was just the Brave Shield going ham. All right, so we did want to just shout out our partner in crime, JR, who has been such a great guy and continuing to build out this great dream of raising money for charities, for animal adoption charities, through the sale of these beautiful, beautiful T-shirts. And I mean, who doesn't want to have Year the Doge right on them?
Yeah, you got to keep the Doge close to the heart, and it's the Year of the Doge. I mean, it's going crazy.
Dude, I'd wear this. Look at that.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely, I'd wear that.
Look at that, dude. That dank green.
Dogecoin has just managed to, turn its nose up to all the other altcoins out there and just say, you know what, guys, I got this.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep on trucking, especially with the Doge Ethereum bridge, consistently being worked on. So big hype there. But, without JR, we wouldn't have this awesome shirt.
Yeah, I mean, HODL.
Hashtag Hool.
Yeah, hashtag. What is $Hool? But no, HODL gang is just the coin family. You don't really always HODL. You do trade eventually, but we've kind of documented that. But again, check out borkchain.com and make sure your Brave browser shields are down so it can redirect you to the teespring.com portal. And we didn't want to just say thank you again for everyone tuning in. You said you had one thing.
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to mention something about JR and Borkchain. Big shout out and congratulations to him landing an awesome partnership with the crypto model. She's, to my knowledge, has agreed to wear his shirts. She's a Twitter model with close to about 50,000 followers. So that's big news for him, getting that kind of exposure out there. So, Crypto Model, if you're watching, we'd love to have you on the stream. Let us know how we can get in touch with you.
Yeah.
And
we can hit you up on Twitter. I see you have an Instagram as well, so maybe we can talk there. But definitely, we have some opportunities to work together in some very meaningful content. So, Block Talk logo, would be a great look. You know what
especially
I'm
on a bikini.
Oh man, well, we are still working on the specifics of that. We could just do, we could work out the details over a message. But
I'm flexible.
Yeah, we'll go with it. We do some cosplay, little blockchain action with it. But hey, we got plenty of time to figure that out. Plenty of time to figure that one out. So thanks again, everyone, for tuning in. This is going to conclude our episode, but we'll be back on Thursday with some more content. And until then, you guys have a
Thursday.
Have a great one, you guys.